Jesus' siblings. Mark 6:3, and Galatians 1:19.
Let's look at Mark 6:3. Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James, and Joseph, and of Judah, and Simon, and are not his sisters here with us? Now let's look at Galatians 1:17-19. Neither went I up to Jerusalem to them which were apostles before me, but I went into Arabia, and returned again unto Damascus. Then after 3 years I went up to Jerusalem to see Peter, and abode with him 15 days. But other of the apostles saw I none, save James the Lord's brother. Okay. Notice that James the Lord's brother is described as one of the apostles that came before Paul. Before Paul. Well, who were the apostles in the time before Paul? They are listed in Matthew 10:2-4, as well as Mark and Luke. The first, Simon, who is called Peter, and Andrew his brother, James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother, Philip, and Bartholomew, Thomas, and Matthew the publican, James the son of Alphaeus, and Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanite, and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. So tell me, who was James the Lord's brother? Was he James the son of Zebedee, or was he James the son of Alphaeus?
It's not James Zebedee. He is killed in Acts 12:2, so he can't be the James we see in Jerusalem.
True. So he must be James the son of Alphaeus.
No. He must have been a third James. Jesus' brothers rejected him until his death, so they wouldn't be his apostles then.
Ah, but remember Galatians 1. James in Jerusalem was one of the apostles before Paul. So where does the Bible say that one of Jesus' brothers became an apostle after Jesus died? Where is the new James introduced as a Christian? For example, in Acts 1:13, we see the 11 remaining apostles listed again: Peter, and James, and John, and Andrew, Philip, and Thomas, Bartholomew, and Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, and Simon Zelotes, and Judas the brother of James. Pause a moment. Do you see Judas the brother of James? This is another name for Thaddeus, you see, not to be confused with Judas Iscariot. We know from earlier verses that Jesus had brothers named James and Judas. We also know that both of the apostles named James had different fathers than Joseph. And now we know that one James is a brother to the apostle Judas Thaddeus, who has a different surname than anyone named James. It's getting pretty hard to defend the word brother as a literal meaning. Anyway, a second Philip is introduced in Acts 6:5-6. We know he is different from the apostle Philip because he is one of the 7 commissioned by the 12 apostles. I say 12 apostles because Matthias replaced Judas Iscariot in Acts 1:23-26. But as we read about Matthias and Stephen and the new Philip and Paul and others being joined among the disciples and apostles, when does the new James join the Christians? He just pops up as the leader of Jerusalem in Acts 15:13. Or maybe, just maybe, he was with the apostles all along. Notice, throughout Acts, he is never called James the brother of the Lord. Perhaps Luke didn't want to make readers accidentally think that this was a different James. Either James was not one of the original apostles and just later appears as leader of Jerusalem, or he was one of the original apostles who was there all along. I don't think our interpretation is that much of a stretch. You know that Matthew 13:55 also describes the brothers of Jesus and his brethren, James, and Joseph, and Simon, and Judas. Well, let's skip to the crucifixion in Matthew 27:56. Among which was Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's children. If this Mary were the mother of Jesus, why wouldn't it say Mary the mother of Jesus? Mark 15:40. There were also women looking on afar off, among whom was Mary Magdalene, and Mary the mother of James the less and of Joseph, and Salome. Again, if this Mary is Jesus' mother, why doesn't it say so? James the Less has a prominent role in Christian tradition, by the way. He is believed to be the writer of the book of James and the head of the church in Jerusalem. And this verse assigns him a different mother than Jesus's. Luke 24:10. It was Mary Magdalene and Jonah, and Mary the mother of James, and other women that were with them, which told these things unto the apostles.
Well, isn't it an awfully big coincidence that there'd be a different Mary around? Maybe the gospel writers just felt like calling Jesus' mother the mother of James, for some reason.
Consider that Luke was also the author of Acts, yet in Acts 1:14 he mentions Mary the mother of Jesus. If Mary the mother of James in Luke 24 is the same person as Mary the mother of Jesus in Acts 1, then why would Luke call her the mother of James at the time, when she was standing by Jesus, and call her the mother of Jesus after Christ had ascended, when she was standing by James? Let's move on to John 19:25. Now there stood by the cross of Jesus his mother, and his mother's sister, Mary the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. Now consider. John is the only gospel that specifically says Jesus' mother was by the cross. Why is it that John is also the only gospel that mentions 3 different Marys instead of 2? Why is it that the Gospels constantly say Mary the mother of James and Joses, instead of Mary the mother of James, Joses, Judas, and Simon? If brother is understood to mean cousin, then everything makes sense. James and Joses are actual brothers. They are probably cousins to Jesus, and they are probably cousins to Judas and Simon too. This Judas is probably the same Judas who is called the brother of James in Acts, even though his surname is different than any of the James apostles. And, if John is the only gospel to describe Jesus' mother at the cross, then we see that the mother of James and Joses is a different Mary.
Wow. We've gone through a whole other video.
Be glad you buckled that metaphorical seatbelt.